Welcome back to Spanish with Maya. Bienvenidos a Español con Maya. So, today we are going to learn a very important subject, and this is how to ask questions to say why, where, what, and because. These are essential for us to understand because sometimes we need to ask people, why is it like that? Where am I going? What is that? Because of this, I have to do that. This is very important. So let's start with why. Why in Spanish is por qué. Okay, let's say it together. Por qué. Let's give some examples. ¿Por qué necesito mi pasaporte? We know necesito means I need. So why do I need my passport? ¿Por qué necesito mi pasaporte? Maybe you are at a museum or somewhere and they ask, can I have your passport? And you say, ¿por qué necesito mi pasaporte? Another example is, ¿por qué quiero hablar español? Why do I want to speak Spanish? This is a very good question to ask yourself, but it's just an example. ¿Por qué quiero hablar español? Now we have because. And you can see that por qué means why and por qué means because. They both are por qué. One has an accent, why has an accent, because doesn't. So if I'm going to say, because I am hungry, I would say, ¿por qué tengo hambre? Okay? If I'm saying, because I am happy, ¿por qué estoy feliz? Okay? It's kind of odd to start a sentence with por qué, but you can. ¿Por qué quiero hablar en español? This instance is not a question, it's saying because I want to speak in Spanish. So it's a little different. Now we have where. Where in Spanish is ¿dónde? ¿Dónde? Okay? ¿Dónde está el hotel? Where is the hotel? ¿Dónde está el supermercado? Where is the supermarket? ¿Dónde está el taxi? Where is the taxi? It's taking a long time. ¿Dónde está? And you'll notice that I use estar in all of these examples because we're talking about a location. The next thing that we're going to look at is what. What in Spanish, you could say ¿qué? ¿Qué? In some countries, like in Mexico, they say mande. Mande. That's something to know if you go to Mexico, but it doesn't happen in every country that speaks Spanish. We also have perdón. Perdón means pardon. Excuse me, perdón. You could also say ¿qué dices? What are you saying? ¿Qué quieres? What do you want? And ¿qué necesito? What do I need? Okay, great job. So the review is why is por qué, because is por qué, and where is dónde, and what is qué. Make sure to practice these as much as possible. Let's do a conversation for asking how someone is. Again, when we're talking to someone else, we need to know, do I use tú, do I use usted, and how do I ask them how they're doing? So this is a conversation between Marcos and Laura. Marcos, ¿estás bien? Laura, sí. ¿Por qué? Marcos, ¿por qué te ves mal? Laura, ¿yo? Marcos, sí. Laura, solo estoy cansada. Marcos, tienes que dormir más. Laura, sí, lo sé. Okay, let's go look at what they're saying in English. How did that sound? Are you following along? Good job. Okay, Marcos asks, are you okay? ¿Estás bien is like, are you okay? Are you well? And he's asking, ¿estás? This is the to form of estar, right? The to pronoun. And they're friends, so he's using tú, not usted, okay? You could also use usted for a friend, but for this instance, they're using tú. Laura says, yeah, why? Remember, the word por qué means why, and it also means because. So Laura uses it to say why, and then Marcos uses it to say because. Because you look bad. Porque te ves mal. he's using the verb ver, to see, conjugated for the to. Te ves mal. Then Laura says, I? Yo? Marcos is like, yeah, you do look bad. Out of concern, though. And Laura says, I'm only tired. Solo estoy cansada. We know estoy, and we are learning two new words here. Solo means alone or only, and cansada means sleepy. And we're using cansada, not cansado, because Laura is feminine. Marcos then says, you need to sleep more. He's worried about his friend. So he's saying the verb tener, which is to have, and he's using it in the to pronoun. Tienes que dormir más. And then Laura says, yo sé. In the previous slide, I put sí, lo sé. But you can also say, yo sé. They both mean about the same thing. Lo sé is like, I know it. In this instance, yo sé is, I know. Either one of them is great to learn, and we'll figure out more on that lo word later on in the course. Hola, bienvenidos a Español con Maya. Hello, welcome back to Spanish with Maya. Today we are doing a conversation asking, where are you from? And we are asking this with the pronoun nosotros. Remember, nosotros means us. So we're going to be focusing a lot on that in the next few conversations and using our 20 most important verbs throughout them. So this is a conversation between Maria and Juan. Let's get started. Maria: nosotros somos de Estados Unidos. Juan: ¿dónde en Estados Unidos? María: somos de Nueva York, pero vivimos en Seattle. Juan: ¿tienes hijos? María: sí, tenemos 3 hijos. Okay, so I said that pretty slow and clear, so I hope that it was easier to understand this time. Let's figure out what they're saying in English. So Maria says we are from the US, okay? And we know all of these words at this point except for de. And de we're going to focus on further, but it means basically from. Nosotros, we just learned, means us, and we know that somos comes from the verb ser, to be. We are, okay? We are from the United States, Estados Unidos. And then Juan asks, where in the US? He's using that word donde again. And Maria responds by saying, we are from New York, but we live in Seattle. So a lot of names are the same in English and Spanish. Seattle, Seattle, okay? But for example, New York in Spanish is Nueva York, because new in Spanish is nueva. So she used somos from the verb ser, and she also used vivimos from the verb vivir. Okay, and she's saying, we're from New York, but we live in Seattle. So she uses this very important word, which is pero, okay? Pero, but. Juan then goes, do you have kids? ¿Tienes hijos? He's using the verb tener here, okay? And he's asking Maria in the to form. And Maria responds by responding for both her and her partner. Sí, tenemos 3 hijos. Yes, we have 3 kids. Okay? How did that feel? Let's go to the next conversation. Vámonos.